Now that we're closing in on finishing the Metal Gear Solid series, I can confidently say that I'm not just excited for Phantom Pain because I think it will be good, I'm excited for Phantom Pain because I need it to be good. After trying to play Peace Walker and grinding my teeth throughout almost all of Metal Gear Rising, I need this series to finish on a strong note. And before we get to the finale, we gotta play the prologue. So let's talk about Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes in this spoiler review. And as I'm sure you've noticed, this will be a shorter review because Ground Zeroes only took me 90 minutes to beat. So to preface, like I said, I tried to play Peace Walker. I spent 20 bucks on a Vita version, booted it up, and the controls were so flagrantly evil that even when I got the hang of them about 2 or 3 missions in, I just wasn't having any fun. Apparently the controls are a lot better and more modern on the PS3 version of the game, which you can still buy, but I'm unfathomably broke. So I ultimately decided to not play Peace Walker, and unfortunately, Ground Zeroes is heavily tied to the events of that game. And that's not to say that I don't like the cohesiveness across installments, but I'm not a big fan of a main entry being tied to one that came out originally on secondary hardware. But to be fair, this game does have a good summary of Peace Walker that caught me up to speed, and just to make sure I understood how the story was told instead of just the plot beats that happened, I watched a summary video by ItsAmandaLemon, which was stellar. I'll leave the link to it in the description. And it kind of makes me more angry that Peace Walker was originally for the Vita because it has some great ideas I was excited to see get expanded upon. Like, I thought Paz was a really interesting character, and I was looking forward. Okay. Yeah, it kind of seems like Ground Zeroes was a way for Konami to make a clean break from Peace Walker, picking up some of its mechanics, characters, and storylines, while eliminating its necessity. It sucks to say, but if Snake got sent into a 9-year coma from that helicopter explosion, I doubt that poor little guy Chico made it. But it does seem like mainstay characters have survived that explosion, like Master Miller, considering he has to, and we still have Otacon's dad. So while I am glad Peace Walker isn't as necessary as I thought it was, I am a bit upset the only expansion it gets is 2 of its original characters exploding and Snake not wearing the boss's headband anymore. And small nitpick, the summary did say that the boss is the only woman that Snake loved, which implies he loved her romantically, but I feel it was super evident that it was more of a mother-son relationship. Also, maybe they haven't officially gotten together at this point. I'm a little fuzzy on the timeline, but we're just gonna say that line and pretend that Eva didn't exist? Solid Snake's mom? Anyways, while I'm not 100% sure this game is a clean break, it is absolutely a necessary prologue and lead up to Phantom Pain, which does explain why I was so confused when I tried to play MGS5 on its own like 6 years ago and got nowhere. And it did its job of hyping me up for that game super well, especially with its cliffhanger with the explosion and the trailer they showed. It was super obvious that the villain of this game would be Major Zero, but just because it's obvious doesn't mean it's any less exciting. Again, not 100% on the timeline, but I'm very excited to find out if we'll see the cause of the Patriots, their early stages, or Les Enfants Terribles, the final straw between Snake and Zero. But I am a little worried that Miller's relationship with Snake won't be expanded upon in Phantom Pain with the context of his appearance and death in Metal Gear Solid 1 and his relationship to Solid Snake, as I never got to see a scene between Solid Snake and Ocelot with dialogue influenced by his respect for his father. I do think it is a bit silly the enemy militia group is called XOF and their logo is just foxes flipped. That's some silly ass reverse flash shit. In fact, it's so silly that I didn't believe it. When they showed it in the mirror for the first time with Skullface, I thought it was supposed to be Fox and Kojima just didn't understand how mirrors worked. But regardless, I'm interested to see them in the next game and to find out what Skullface's deal is, considering he has a grand total of 1 scene in this game. I feel like I'm kind of just summarizing the plot instead of talking about my feelings on it, but it's kind of hard to when this isn't even the first act of a story. I really feel like there's not much I can say except, yep, it looks promising. You know what I can't talk about though, since I've seen a lot of it? The gameplay in Ground Zeroes is exactly what I've been waiting for a long time. Metal Gear Solid 4 was modern enough, and definitely a huge step in the right direction, but after seeing the stealth gameplay only improve game after game, this was easily the thing I was most excited for in Metal Gear Solid 5. In my MGS1 video, I said that stealth is very dependent on the intelligence and predictability of your enemies and basically how human they act. I brought up how one detail can make your whole plan go haywire because the enemy programming isn't advanced enough. In every other Metal Gear Solid game, to some varying degree, your enemies are just obstacles you need to work your way around. But in Metal Gear Solid 5, you can bait enemies and make your obstacles move to where you need them to go. I didn't really feel like I had too many opportunities to exhibit this, given the fact that this game has about like 4 hours of content, takes place on 1 map, but the fact I was able to place a C4 on a turret, run to where I wanted to go, and then detonate the C4, causing the guards blocking my path to go check check it out blew my mind. Same with how you can get your enemy into a CQC hold and force them to call nearby guards. The gameplay isn't perfect, like how the controls can be a bit finicky and how you can't hide bodies in dumpsters, which is kind of a rudimentary feature for stealth games, but just simple additions like marking enemies and choosing your own path makes up for it tenfold. Like, I wasn't dragging Eva through the jungle and clearing out the path ahead. I rescued Paz and had a few different exfil options, like leaving the same way I came, calling in a helicopter in the same place I saved Chico, and finding my own path like what I ultimately did. I called in the helicopter ahead of time so it would be there when I got there, stashed her in an armored truck, and went out guns blazing because I didn't have a secure enough path for efficient stealth. I have been waiting for a stealth game that feels this free for a long time, and I'm so glad to finally be able to play it. And what I love about the side ops, as well as saving Chico and Paz, is how immersive it felt, more so than superhero games. This sounds like a random comparison to make, but in the two most well-renowned superhero video game franchises, Insomniac's Spider-Man and the Batman Arkham series, you're saving lives, but pretty much only through stopping the villains and turning the goons' bones into gravel. In this game, I'm saving lives by infiltrating a hostile base, calling in a rescue chopper, and carrying them on my shoulders to safety. I don't know, I just love how real and grounded it is. Like, you're not rescuing these POWs by way of taking out a villain, no, you're just rescuing them. And while it is a bit disappointing they all use the same map and they don't seem to be canon, I did really enjoy the side ops you unlock from beating Ground Zeroes. They have a good mix of stealth, urgency with taking out the two Marines, and high action when you storm the base on the helicopter to save the undercover operative. It is lame you have to play them on normal before unlocking hard mode, especially with how easy a couple of the side ops are, but they are absolutely a welcome addition to the game. To be honest, I'm having the same issue I had with Batman Arkham VR, where I don't really know how to score it because almost all of this game is great, but that's not really saying much when you look at how much is actually here. I think I'm gonna give it a 7.5 out of 10, which, if you remember, is 1 full point higher than I gave Guns of the Patriots, which does sound completely asinine, even to me, the guy who gave Far Cry 3 a 2.5 out of 10. But that's until I remember how the ending of the game dropped it from a 9 to a 6.5. After the video game equivalent of imitation meat, it's really nice to have the real thing again, which this absolutely is, with its needlessly cool cutscenes and characters. You know what really makes this game stand out above the others though? When I flew in on a helicopter and saved Hideo Kojima himself. Watch this, dude. Wait for it. Ah!